Welcome back to the Bindery. I'm Evelyn, and it's time to rebind a book. I ended up with an extra copy of a 2-volume Rex Stout book. This was a family member's, and they had somehow gotten 2, probably forgot they bought 1, and purchased the second, and said, do you want this? And I said, absolutely. I will turn it into a hardback book because I have been meaning to experiment with gold foiling. So, let's get started. The process always begins with tearing off the cover, which I must say is extremely satisfying, if a little tragic. But the book will be rebound, so it'll be okay. Starting off with picking out some end papers. I had ordered a bunch of very pretty papers from Hollanders. They are a bookbinding supply store out of Michigan somewhere, so I ordered these, and I must say they're gorgeous. I could probably spend a small fortune on these marbled papers and some of the handcrafted papers that they have. Oh, stunning. Of course, it helps if I can actually get them off the roll. I ended up with this red and pink marbled paper that I think will go quite well with the cover. Just getting everything measured up and then cut down to size. This is always my favorite part of any bookbinding project. It's the folding of paper and then smoothing out that fold with a bone folder. Don't ask me why I love it so much, I just do. Now to glue those end papers onto the text block. I'm putting a piece of waste paper on just a smidge from the edge of the end paper so that I don't get extra glue in the way of the final product, or final paste down, I mean. Going ahead and putting on the other end paper. and then I'll put everything under some weight to make sure that it dries nice and flat. This is a handmade book press made from some old scraps of very hard plastic and a few bolts. It is unwieldy, it needs a handle right in the middle, but I can't be bothered, so this will have to do. After about a day or so, I pull this out and we can get on with making the cover boards. Just making sure everything is all lined up properly. I'm going to trim off a tiny bit of excess. Perfect. Pulling out some book board and getting everything measured up to figure out how to cut this down to size. This book board ended up being just about perfect height-wise for this book and just a little bit longer lengthwise than I needed, so cutting it down was fairly straightforward. But, of course, we're going to measure just to be sure. I use a large paper cutter to cut down the book board because my hands are not at all up to the task with a knife or a craft knife sort of a thing, and this makes it just so much easier, even if getting the measurements exactly right is a little bit fiddly. Front and back and spine all cut. The very heavy paper cutter can go back into the closet. I really need a proper cart for that thing. That's a project for another day. Alright. I am now going to cut down some paper for the spine, just a little bit of extra strength and support there. It also makes it a little bit easier when I'm gluing to the final leather product, simply because I don't have to measure between the front and back cover and the spine. Everything will already be in place. And since I had this beautiful marbled paper, I'm going to use that. It will never be seen, but I'll know it's there. Pulling out some more waste paper because I hate cleaning up glue from my cutting mat. These are old sewing magazines. I have several of them. putting in a spacer to make sure that the boards are spaced correctly so that when the book opens, the spine opens nicely and you can read the book very easily. I usually use about a centimeter between the spine and the front board for the hinge, and I think that works pretty well. Once both sides are glued, I put a brick on top for some pressure and let that dry. Now we're going to be finishing up preparing the text block, and this mostly involves reinforcing the spine and adding headbands. To reinforce the spine, I am gluing on some book cloth or mull. This is very loosely woven cloth that has a sort of stiffness to it, and it adds strength to the spine. And then I'll be putting on headbands, and afterwards, for just a bit of extra reinforcement, I am adding some Japanese kozo paper. The mull is a little wider than the spine so that it reinforces underneath the end papers and paste downs. Once the text block is complete, it is time to start preparing the leather. I am doing a half-bound design on this, which means the spine and just a little bit onto the front and back boards will be a different color leather than the rest of it. And for the spine, I'm using this black cowskin leather that is rather shiny, very supple. Just measuring out where exactly I want this to go. I'm not being very particular about sizing. I want it to be, good enough. Probably about 4 inches or so. It will be straight lines, but I don't care if it's a little more than half or a little less than half. Just marking out the measurements on the back side of the leather with a silver Sharpie that is just about out of ink, because of course it is. And then I cut everything out with some leather scissors. And yes, I differentiate between leather scissors and fabric scissors and paper scissors. These things matter. Cutting a little extra leather on the top and bottoms so I have enough material to glue over and around the book board. Once I have the spine side cut out, it's time to cut out the front and back. This is a garment weight pigskin that I am using. It is done in a lovely wine red color. You can see the back there, that's what's on the outside, but I'll show you that's the front. It's got a very different texture than the cowskin. It's a bit more rough, a bit stiffer, but oh, it is so delightful to work with. for bookbinding. Again, marking everything out on the wrong side of the leather, and cutting out this time with rotary cutters, just because it's a little longer and a little easier for me to reach. Again, these are ones I only use on leather, because yes, it matters. Now I'm doing my least favorite task in bookbinding, where using a bone folder on paper is my favorite. Skiving down the edges of leather with a skiving knife is my absolute least favorite. Someday I'm going to invest in a proper skiving machine. Unfortunately, today is not that day. However, I can spare you the torture. So, moving on. Going to glue down the spine bit first. This is the black calfskin or cowskin leather. Trying to be reasonably precise with my glue lines, but it doesn't really matter since I'm putting down two different types of covering here. Adding in those creases at the hinges so that the book opens and closes very nicely and also looks nice. Now adding in the front and back in the wine-colored pigskin. Alright, with everything glued on, it's now time to glue up the edges. But first we're going to trim the corners down, otherwise everything looks a little bit untidy. Alright, all the edges are glued down, everything folds nicely. Time to put some weight on this and let it dry. Alrighty, testing out how the text block fits. Everything is looking pretty good. Might be a little bit long on the edges there, but I think it'll be okay. Now it's time for the gold foiling. This is laser cutter gold foil. This is not the stuff that you put down with glue and then brush off. I tried that and it was so horrible. It was so much fun to do, but the adhesive was very messy. So this is laser cutter gold foil. It sticks down, it gets cut with a laser, and then peels off. Well, the excess does, and I think it looks pretty cool. There are some bits where I had the power of the laser cutter turned up a little bit too high, so it didn't quite come out nicely along the spine where there was very small text. And next time I will do it a little bit lower power, but I think even without the foil showing up, you still have the laser etching in there, and I think it looks okay. I'm quite pleased with the result regardless, so we're going to move on with gluing in the text block. First, gluing down that extra mole, that adds a bit of support right along that edge there. And then putting glue on the rest of the end paper and trying very, very carefully to precisely glue in the text block, because once it's glued in, it's rather hard to take out and reposition. This is me realizing that I should put wax paper in so it doesn't stick to everything. Again, trying not to move the text block. Carefully fold over the cover. Very carefully. Wipe off some extra glue. Make sure everything is glued down as best as can be. I am putting some extra wax paper on this, as well as sticking it in between some plywood, and then I will stick it in the book press. Once it's in the book press, I'll let it dry for a day or so, and then we can have a look at the final result. And frankly, I'm quite pleased with it.